Hi there YouTube, it's Michael Gallacher here, the Media Preacher, back with another video, and today I'm going to do another gear video. For many years I've used this Vox amplifier. I got it, I think, originally for my 21st birthday, so it was a few years ago now, and it's a brilliant little amp. It sounds great, especially in a small space like this. But the one thing it doesn't have is any reverb control. And so for the last few months, I've been looking at reverb pedals for my guitar. And I originally bought the Fender Reflecting Pool pedal, which was about £200. Now that pedal was a reverb on one side of it and a delay on the other. So it was effectively two pedals in one. But I really expected something mind-blowingly good. And it did have a lot of controls on it, but I didn't really know how to work them. And when I plugged it in, I was massively underwhelmed by its performance. I think that was because with this amplifier and for my application here in the home studio, I wanted a pedal that was quite simple, that was almost plug and play and would just add a little bit of space. So I wasn't looking to create huge cavernous echo chambers with a reverb pedal. I was looking for. I was just looking for it to add a little bit of space to this amplifier so that, you know, it would sort of add to the quality of the recording and make for a cohesive recording, and perhaps hide the fact that I'm in a smaller space and make it sound as if the guitar was quite way back sometimes in the mix. So that's what I was looking for. So £200 later, I'm underwhelmed by the Fender Reflecting Pool, and I'm looking at cheaper pedals on Amazon, and I come across the Behringer DR600 pedal. Now before you say it, I know a lot of you gearheads are going to say Behringer make rubbish gear and you shouldn't touch them and you shouldn't use their stuff and you're just wasting money because you're going to have to buy the same thing twice, but it's going to be much more expensive. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that Behringer do really interesting entry-level home studio gear. For instance, I remember getting a C1 Behringer microphone when I first started recording into my digital audio workstation. It was the first condenser microphone I had. And I just wanted a microphone where I could see what the difference between a dynamic microphone and a condenser microphone was. And I could hear that that Behringer condenser microphone was capturing the audio in a very different way to the Shure dynamic microphone that I was using at the time. So anyway, this pedal on Amazon is £20. What's that? Price of a round of drinks or you know, a meal out. I'm going to bite the bullet. I think I'm going to buy this pedal and see how it compares to the Fender Reflecting Pool, and see if, you know, in my setup, if it really does everything I need. And then I would, you know, potentially return the more expensive pedal. So I ordered the DR600 from Amazon, and it arrived. Now the thing about the Fender Reflecting Pool was the build quality on it was fantastic. It was this lovely blue colour. It was like a thick metal. All the buttons on it were metal. You could see it was an expensive piece of kit. When I opened this box, I was met by a slightly different sight. It is certainly cheaper in terms of the way it's manufactured. So if I take the pedal out and just quickly show it to you here on the video, you'll see immediately that rather than having a metal casing, it's all plastic. So it's quite fragile, really. And for something that's likely to get stood on quite a lot, that's perhaps not a good thing. But that said, I've stood on it a few times now, and I haven't damaged it in any way. But if you were a gigging musician and this pedal was being thrown around, taken from here to there, I could see that potentially the casing of this thing is a weak point and it could get damaged. That said, if it did get cracked, that's just like history to the pedal, history to the thing, some battle damage to it, good memory. You know, some people like their gear to look used and vintage, and you know, you could always get a bit of you know, like duct tape potentially and sort of go over any of the cracks or anything that are in it. So is it a bad thing? Not necessarily. And if you're doing like gigs in sort of like rough pubs and that sort of thing, well then this actually might be a really great pedal for you, because if it were to get nicked or damaged by anybody, or if someone else is using it, say at an open mic session, because I know there's a thing where you might share gear, and it did get damaged, it's £20, it's not the end of the world, and if you've already used it at a series of gigs, frankly, you've probably already got your money's worth out of it. So yeah, on the minus points, the first thing that will hit you if you buy one of these DR600s is the build quality of the actual casing itself is not great. But then I plugged it in and I looked at the different settings that you get in it, and it gives you a series of different types of reverb. So at the top setting, you get a spring reverb, which is really what I'm looking for this amp, because that's the kind of reverb that you would normally find, isn't it, on like a Fender amp, things like spring reverb. Or like a plate reverb. But it also has a plate setting on it as well. You just turn the knob over and it's plate. There's like a hall, which is sort of a cavernous sort of space setting. There's a gate on it, and then there's also a room reverb, which I really, really like. And then for each one of the reverbs that you choose, you can change the level of the reverb that's going out to the amplifier, and then the tone and the time, so the space it takes, so the time it takes for the reverb to reflect back. The great thing about it is it actually has a stereo in and a stereo out. So if you're looking to put, I don't know, perhaps a digital piano through it and add some space to that, you can hook that up in stereo and then send it out in stereo as well, and your reverb's going to be in stereo. And I stress, this is only £20. When I bought the Fender Reflecting Pool, yes, it was a reverb and a delay in one pedal, but it was over £200. So yeah, I've been using this pedal now for a few days with this amp, and I've been sort of messing with the settings, and I particularly like the spring setting, and I also particularly like the room setting. And the plan with this video is I'm now going to do basically a jam session. So I'm going to put some chords down. I'm going to call it the Reverb Jam 2021. Just going to put one guitar with some chords down, and on that guitar I'm going to put the reverb onto the room setting, and I'm going to take a picture of how it is when I'm actually playing, so you can see what the settings are that you're hearing. So I'm going to do the first guitar part with the room setting on, and I want it to sound like the rhythm part is effectively in a big space and the amplifier is towards the back of the room, so you're getting lots of reflections. So I'm going to give that quite heavy reverb. Then I'm going to do basically two sort of picked parts. One more of a lead part and one more of a rhythmic thing. The second rhythmic thing I'm going to put onto spring or plate. I'll show you the settings again when I'm actually bringing that part of the video on a picture. And I'm going to make that sound like it's closer, but it will still have lots of space and reverb on it. And then the third part, which will be more of a lead part, I'll then come in with. I'm going to leave the settings on either spring or plate, so this will be the same. And I'm going to add a delay effect to that part as well, so that you can hear how this pedal would work in conjunction with another effect that would give normal, sort of like space to a mix. And delay is obviously the obvious one. I'm going to use the Tascam 12, Model 12, sorry, recorder to record all this stuff into. And I'm going to use the delay that's actually in that machine to create the delay effect, because I don't have a delay pedal yet. But judging on how well I've been getting on with this Behringer pedal, I might actually buy a delay companion for it at some point. So that's the plan. I'm going to go away now. I'm going to hook this amplifier up, this little Vox amp. I'm going to hook the Model 12 up, and I'm going to record basically a jam session with 3 guitar parts on it. I'm not going to include any of the tracks because I want you just to be able to hear what this pedal is doing to the guitar. And I'm thinking if I put some drum tracks or some shakers or anything like that on it, it might take away from your ear. I want you to concentrate on how this pedal sounds. I want to be able to demonstrate really how this pedal sounds in a home studio situation. So here we go. Let me know what you think at the end of the video. Take care. So that was it. That was the jam session. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a little original jam for me, a little original piece that I'm working sort of around and on, just sort of jamming over. But as you can hear, I think that this little Behringer DR600 sounds fantastic. As I say, for gigging use, it may not stand up. That might be a good thing, or it might be a bad thing, taking price into account. But for sound quality, this produces exactly the type of reverb that I'm looking for. And why spend £200 on the Fender reflecting pool when this serves me just as well? So I've actually taken the Fender reflecting pool back to the shop. That's gone back, it's gone. I'm not going to be using it again. It wasn't a bad pedal, I think it was probably more versatile than I needed. I wanted something more simple, and I wanted something that I could just plug and play, and this basically is it. And as you can hear, it's got really good settings on it. You know, you just sort of plug it in, you play it through your amplifier, have a bit of a mess with it, get the sounds, you know, have an idea. If you want a room sound, well, that's going to be bigger, it's going to sound more cavernous, it's going to make the guitar sound like it's further back in the mix. If you're using the spring sound, that's more for a lead part to give it space, which is effectively what I want with this amp. Behringer also do some little videos online. There's a QR code on the cover. If you scan that, they'll take you through some of the basic settings and things via an app on your phone, which is fantastic. I highly recommend it. I'm not sponsored by Behringer. They haven't sent this to me. I pay for it myself. These are just my thoughts on what is a really, really good value pedal. I was going to call it a cheap pedal, but I don't think that's fair. I just think it's a good value entry-level pedal, and I wish more guitar shops sold these, because when I went into my guitar shop in Coventry, they didn't have anything in this price range at all. You know, they just had these really expensive, crazy priced pedals. Madness. If you're looking for an entry-level guitar pedal, I highly recommend the Behringer DR600. Have it, get it, have a play with it, and enjoy yourself. Maybe subscribe to the channel as well, and let me know if you enjoyed the video, because that will encourage me to make more videos in the future. Until next time, this is Michael Gallagher, the Media Preacher, signing off.